Now we started the biology of 10th standard. The first chapter is sensations and responses. What is response and how it is formed? When you touches a hot object, you withdraws your hands suddenly. Or when you heard a loud voice unexpectedly, you get fear or other in any type of changes taken in your body. This is due to stimulus. That is, stimulus is a condition or a change in condition which causes any response to the body. When the stimulus is applied, certain chemical changes occurs within your nervous system, such as impulses. The impulses are carried from one place to another place by the fundamental and the functional unit of the nervous system, such as the neuron. Neuron, the structure of neuron. Neuron is a cylindrical structure. It has three main regions: cell body, dendron, and axon. Cell body is irregularly shaped with a central nucleus and a surrounding cytoplasm. The cytoplasm contains certain granules. From the cell body, there originates a number of cytoplasmic branches collectively called as dendrons. These dendrons are rebranched to form the dendrites. One of the cytoplasmic branch which is elongated than that of the other called as axon. Axon is covered by a silvery white fatty covering called as myelin sheath, which is formed of a special type of cells called as Schwann cells. The Schwann cells and the myelin sheath together forms oligodendrocytes. The axons then rebranched to form the axonites, and each axonite end in button-like structures called as a synaptic knob. The axons with the covering myelin sheath together seen as white in color, which is called as white matter, and the axons without myelin sheath and the cell body looks gray in color called as gray matter. Then what's the role of this neuron? The neuron carry impulses from one place to another place. That is called as propagation. The propagation done within two steps. The first one, that is through the axon. The second one through the synapse. The axon is a cylindrical structure. Axon is a cylindrical structure. When we are in rest, that is in the resting position, the outer surface of the axon membrane is positively charged and the inner surface is negatively charged. It is only at the resting time only. And this condition is called as a resting potential. When a stimulus is applied, the positively charged particles enters into the axon and the negatively charged particles comes outside. The charges are carried by the presence of sodium and potassium ions. The sodium ions are having positive charge and the potassium ions are having positive charge. But the migration is 3:2. That is, 3 sodium comes outside and at the same time 2 potassium comes inside. Then we get sodium has the atomic number 11. So when it forms a sodium ion, then 1 electron is loses. Similarly, the atomic number of potassium is 19. When it attains the charged particles, then it also ejects 1 electron. When the 2 sodium enters outside, that is 3 positive charge comes outside and at the same time 3 electrons left inside. At the same time 2 positive charge enters into the axon by leaving 2 electrons. The net gain is inside 1 negative charge and outside 1 positive charge. Similarly, thousands of sodium and potassium ions move across the axon membrane, and so the axon, the outer side becomes positively charged and inner surface becomes negatively charged. When the stimulus is applied, the sodium ions move out inside and potassium ions move outside as in the same ratio. So the outside becomes negatively charged and the inner side becomes positively charged. It occurs only at the point of stimulus. The remaining portion is similar to that of the early condition. Then the cations, that is the positively charged particles, move towards the negatively charged areas, and so the impulse from this part move towards the opposite part, and the continuous action, the impulse from one end of the axon move towards the opposite end. The speed is 5 to 100 meter per second. Then the second type of propagation is through the synapse. Synapse is the junction between two neurons. This is the one end of the neuron, that is a axon. The end in button-like structure is called a presynaptic knob. The second type of neuron starts and the dendrites are seen at this. This junction is called as a synapse. This junction is called as a synapse. There is a minute gap in every conditions. We can observe that no axonoids comes in contact with or comes in touch with the dendrites. So there is a minute gap, and that gap is called as a synaptic cleft. When the impulse are reached at the presynaptic knob, the synaptic membrane bursts and they release a chemical called as acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter, and it transmits the impulse from the axonites to the dendrites of another neuron, and the propagation is completed. The neurons then unites to form the nerve. The nerves are of three types based on their function. When the nerve carry impulses from the sense organ to the nervous system, then it is called as sensory nerve. When it carry the impulse from the central nervous system to body parts, then it is called a motor nerve. Certain nerves acts both as sensory and motor, which are called as mixed nerves. In our body, these three types of nerves are met. That is the introduction to this nervous system. Then we come to the human nervous system. The human nervous system, that is represented as HNS. It is classified into three. That is central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and autonomous nervous system. The autonomous nervous system is a part of the peripheral nervous system. So, in test, we can note two types of nervous system, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The third is as a part of the second. But now, we are classified into three. Then, central nervous system include brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system include cranial nerves and spinal nerves. The autonomous nervous system include a sympathetic system and a parasympathetic system. The brain, and the first one, that of the brain. The brain is enclosed within a bony chamber that is called as a cranium. Within the cranium, the brain is protected by means of a three-layered membrane called as a meninges. Between the layers of the meninges, there filled a fluid called as a cerebrospinal fluid. The meninges protects the brain from external shock and pressure. It acts as an insulator and provides nourishment and oxygen to the tissues of the brain. The brain is mainly classified into three. That is a forebrain, midbrain, and a hindbrain. The forebrain includes cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Its outer surface is a gray in color called gray matter or cortex, and inner surface is a white in color called white matter or medulla. The surface of the cerebrum has a number of fissures and sulci, which increases the total surface area. The central fissure of the cerebrum divides it into two cerebral hemispheres and are connected together at the base by a pad of nervous tissue collectively called as a corpus callosum. The cerebrum possesses the vesicular structures called as cerebral ventricles, which are filled with cerebrospinal fluid. It regulates the first upon you think you haven't, that is consciousness, intelligence, memory. Second upon you think you have a lot, that is thought and feelings. Then the functions of sensations, vision, hearing, taste, smell, touch, pressure, coldness, hotness, and pain. That is, the cerebrum regulates consciousness, memory, intelligence, thought, feelings, and the sensations like vision, hearing, taste, smell, touch, pressure, coldness, hotness, and pain. The thalamus is in just below to the cerebrum. It acts as a relay station that it transmits impulses from the cerebrum and to the cerebrum. Then when we use any type of painkillers, all the type of painkillers which possess aspirin or morphine, it also affects to the thalamus and prevents the transmission of the impulse of pain, and so we get or we believe that the pain is solved. Then hypothalamus, it is seen just below to the thalamus. It regulates hunger, thirst, emotions, body temperature, sex drive, etc. It also acts as an endocrine gland and produces two types of hormones such as vasopressin and oxytocin. The midbrain, which contains the bundles of nerves such as optic lobe, auditory lobe, etc. Then the hindbrain consists of two parts, that is cerebellum and and medulla oblongata. Cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain. It regulates the body balance and it also regulates the movements or the muscles involved in movements. You see, the drunkards move unsteadily. Why? Because the alcohol affects to cerebellum and alcohol affects to cerebellum. Then what happens? The cerebellum disturbs the body balance, and it also alcohol eliminates gamma amino butyric acid, which affects to the cerebellum and leads to the weakness of the reflex action and muscle movement, and so the drunkards move unsteadily. The medulla oblongata. It is the most vital part of the brain. It regulates heartbeat, respiration, metabolism, etc., etc. All the type of vital functions are controlled by the medulla oblongata, and it also regulates the involuntary actions like vomiting, sneezing, coughing, etc. So, it is the most vital part, and any mild shock to medulla oblongata leads to the death of that person. Then, from the medulla oblongata, there originates the spinal cord. The spinal cord. Spinal cord is a cylindrical structure. Spinal cord is a cylindrical structure which originates from the medulla oblongata and extends to the posterior end of the vertebral column. The cross section of the medulla oblongata shows a white region. Outer region is a white called white matter, and inner region is a gray called gray matter. In the ventral side, there is a nerve called ventral root, and at the dorsal side, there is a dorsal root. This together forms the spinal nerve. It also acts as a relay station for the impulses to the brain and from the brain. It also acts in reflex action, or the center of the reflex action. What is the reflex action? At first, we start this chapter, we discuss about the sudden withdrawal of the hands when we touch a hot object. That is a reflex action that you get by heredity